everyone, it's Vivian. I'm a former resident at International House. I almost lived there for 2 years before the pandemic started, and today I want to give you an honest review of International House, New York. When I was looking for housing before coming to New York, I came across the option of applying to International House on the internet. However, at that time, I couldn't find any reviews about IHouse. I applied anyways, and luckily 90% of my experience living there were very positive. And I've personally been recommending IHouse to my friends who are coming to New York to study or intern. In today's video, I'll briefly introduce what IHouse is, the pros and cons of living there, why it's the best housing option for international students, how it compares to other housing options, and some housing strategies for international students. So, what is IHouse? According to Wikipedia, International House New York, also known as IHouse, is a private, independent, non-profit residence and program center for postgraduate students, research scholars, trainees, and interns, located at 500 Riverside Drive in Morningside Heights, Manhattan, New York City. In other words, IHouse is not a school dormitory. It doesn't belong to Columbia or any other universities, although it's walking distance from Columbia University. And according to IHouse official website, it says, IHouse is more than just graduate student housing. We are a vibrant global community with a mission to foster cross-cultural understanding and lifelong connections between the world's next influencers. Typically, each year we are home to 700 plus postgrads from 100 countries who have come to New York City to study or train in any discipline. So what kind of rooms does IHouse offer? There are two buildings in IHouse, the North Building and the South Building. According to IHouse official website, IHouse North is an apartment-style building with furnished studio and one-bedroom apartments and 3, 4, or 5-bedroom apartment suites. And you can see here on their website the monthly room rates. So a studio apartment costs around $2,200, one-bedroom apartment costs around $2,600, and a single room in a 3-bedroom apartment, depending on its size, ranges from $1,500 to $1,700 per month. An extra large room with private bath in a 4 or 5-bedroom apartment costs around $2,000. If these options sound too expensive for you, then you can consider IHouse South Building. According to the official website, there are 500 bedrooms, average size of 8 times 11 feet, which is 2.4 meter times 3.4 meter, and some rooms with sinks. Each floor has shared single-sex bathroom facilities on the floor. And the monthly room rates are, without a sink, it costs $1,200. With a sink, it's $1,300. With a semi-private bathroom, which is not available as of fall 2021, it's $1,600. And with a private bathroom, which is also not available by fall 2021, it's $1,735. Yeah, so these are all the options you have. So in conclusion, the average price you would pay for a really small room in South Building would be $1,200 to $1,300. And for a bedroom in North Building, it will cost around $1,500 to $2,200 since they have, their own bathroom and kitchen in the apartment. So, what are the pros and cons of living at IHouse? Let's start with pros. First of all, location. The location is great for Columbia students. It's a 10-minute walk to Columbia University and a 6-minute walk to 125th subway station. Besides, it's right next to Sakura Park and Riverside Park, which means the south-facing and west-facing rooms get perfect view of the park and Hudson River. The second advantage of living at IHouse is definitely safety. So they have 24-hour security front desk, and each person gets their ID card to swipe in and out of the building. And the security guard actually checks everyone when they enter the building. There's a downside to it, but I'll get to it later in the video. Also, the school bus operated by Columbia University also stops at the exit of the building at 155 Claremont Avenue. So for people who go to the medical campus or who wants to go to the main campus without having to take the subway or walk, you can also take advantage of the school bus. And amenities, it's probably the best part of IHouse. So it has a lot of common areas, beautiful lounges, computer room, printing station, gym, basketball court, in-house pub, and a really beautiful terrace that overlooks the Hudson River. And there's also a in-house cafeteria that serves breakfast, lunch, dinner, 6 days a week. It's super convenient for people who are lazy to go out and get food. Also, there's laundry room in both South and North building, and all the washing machines and drying machines are usually available and functional, so you don't need to worry that you need to wait for people to take out their laundry and stuff. And the next thing is also one of the best part of living at IHouse, which is the connections you can make with people and the friends you can make there. So first of all, they have a lot of common area where you can meet and chat with people. And second of all, there are events every single week. And it's not just like, speeches or academic events. There are also a lot of cultural and fun events like ice cream gathering, Diwali or Chinese New Year celebration, Thanksgiving, Halloween. They have all kinds of cultural celebrations there. And I just think it's a great chance to, learn and meet people from different backgrounds and different cultures. I feel like it's the essence of living in New York City, to just get new experiences and meet new people and culture, which is really cool. IHouse also provides a lot of resources to its residents. So it has fellowships, leadership program, Davis projects for peace grants, and financial aid. And there's also free on-site mental health service for people who need, emergency counseling. In terms of living there, you don't really need to clean the bathroom because it's shared same-sex bathroom and they hire people to clean it every other day. Also, you get your own room if you live in the South building, which means you don't need to have roommates and you don't need to worry about sharing a space with other people. For international students, International House is definitely easier than any other options because you don't need credit score, you don't need a guarantor, you don't need proof of income, annoying documents you need to prepare for like apartment rental. Also, the room comes furnished, so you don't need to spend money on buying furniture and bed and all that stuff and having to sell it when you're leaving the city. And rent is collected in the beginning of every semester, so you just pay it the same time as you pay your tuition. You don't need to pay it monthly. Last but not least, the flexibility provided by IHouse is also impeccable. You get to choose your room every academic year. You can also ask to change room mid-semester if there are rooms available. For me personally, I changed my room after one semester, so my room at the beginning was facing north and there wasn't really a view, and then I applied to change to a west facing room, so it's facing Hudson River and the sunset, and the room is just bigger and the view was better too. It's a much more better living environment for a grad student, I would say, because you're usually very stressed looking for internships and full-time jobs and dealing with schoolwork. And now it's time for the cons. So first of all, there's no laundry in unit. You have to bring all your laundry down to the basement to wash it. It's kind of annoying, but that's kind of normal in New York City. Also, you need a separate laundry cart for doing your laundry and drying your clothes. It's not included in your housing fee. The second disadvantage is cooking. There's no place for you to cook if you live in the South building. As I mentioned earlier, if you live in the North building, you live in like family style apartment, so you get kitchen and your own bathroom. If you live in the South, it's like dormitory. There is a tiny community kitchen on like the first or second floor, but it's really small and like you need to pay extra money to get access to that room, and few people actually use it. Yeah, it's probably not the best place for people who want to practice cooking or learn how to cook. Also, rice cookers, induction cooktop are not allowed in individuals' room, although many residents have them. I personally had an induction cooktop and a rice cooker too. It helps me cook some Asian food or ramen when I really wanted like a midnight snack or something. Yeah, they don't really serve Asian food in the cafeteria. So the third thing that a lot of people complain about is the mandatory dining fee. According to the website, dining services charged at $5.75 per day for credit to use in the cafeteria. And this is paid upfront in the beginning of the semester when you moved in. So if one semester is 90 days, then you pay $517 for dining hall for the whole semester, along with the rent. You can top up the dining credit if you run out of it, but if you don't use up all your dining credit before you move out, IHouse, you won't be able to get them back in cash. Yeah, normally people use all of it, but like I did see a few people didn't finish their dining credit, so they kind of just bought everyone at the cafeteria lunch, which is kind of nice, but yeah, this is something people complain about. Oh, and the fourth thing is their overnight guest policy. It's super strict. So I mentioned earlier that each person gets an ID card to swipe in and swipe out of the building. And when you are bringing in your friend, they need to provide photo ID at the front desk to exchange for like a guest pass. And for overnight guests, each resident only gets 6 free nights. If you surpass those 6 days, you need to pay, I think, $15 a night or more, I forgot. But yeah, you need to pay for extra nights. Also, they like check everyone with it when they enter, and they need to put down their names and their IDs, etc. So it's a little bit annoying, but I know it's for like the safety of the residents. If you have like some family members visiting, or like your boyfriend or girlfriend visiting you, then they can only stay with you 6 nights at most per month. Yeah, the next thing is the room can be quite small in South Building for the price, but I mean, for all the amenities you get and 24-hour security, I would say the price is worth it. It's just the room is really small, but you kind of get everything you need in the room. And there's no AC in the room. If you want AC in the summer, you need to get an air conditioner and pay installation fee to have it installed. And when you want to disinstall it, you also need to pay an disinstallation fee. Oh, IHouse also charge you for lockout. Every semester or during your whole like residency, you get like 2 lockouts. And after 2 lockouts, you start paying like $6 to open your door. And last thing I want to bring to your attention is the COVID situation we had with IHouse. So last year during COVID, a lot of residents, especially international students, were forced out because IHouse was designed as like a communal space, and there are a lot of shared spaces and bathrooms and, you know, dining hall and all that stuff. So they closed down the whole South Building and forced a lot of people to move out in a very, very short notice. I don't think it will happen again because it's probably the first time they had to do it to the house and the residents, but it was a very painful and stressful experience for a lot of us because it's in the beginning of the pandemic in New York City, and a lot of us were international students who didn't have any parents or, I don't know, cousins or family members in the United States, and we had nowhere to go. And we had to find an accommodation in 2 weeks and moved out from IHouse. This is the downside of living in such a communal and, you know, like shared space, but hopefully it won't happen again. And I'm pretty sure after that experience, IHouse has a much better plan for the future. So in this last part of the video, I want to talk about how IHouse compared to other housing options in New York City and the best housing strategy for international students. So the first housing option we have here is apartment rental. The problem with apartment rental is that you need to find roommates unless you're really rich and you can afford a 1-bedroom or studio yourself. And the second thing is that you need to do the apartment hunting before or right after you move to New York City, which will be a hustle to a lot of people, I believe. And then the third problem is that you need to have a credit score and a 40-time annual income, which a lot of international students or just students in general do not have. In that situation, the landlord usually asks for a guarantor who needs to provide an annual income 80 times the rent. I believe a lot of international students do not have established friends that make that much money or family members in the United States to be a guarantor for them. In that case, they have to go for an insurance, which is a company that acts as your guarantor, but that can cost 5 to 10% of your rent. So it can be quite expensive too for students. And the problem with renting near universities in New York is that it's very expensive, especially in Morningside Heights where Columbia is. And those apartments can be very old and small. So you usually have to pay around $1,000 to $1,300 for a normal to small room in an old apartment with 2 to 3 other roommates. If you want something better, then you have to look for luxury apartments in that area, but that will usually cost up to $1,500 to $2,000 per person if you have a roommate, and that will cost more if you want to live by yourself. And the last problem we all know with renting an apartment is that you need to look for furniture and you need to buy furniture, and it will be a lot of money and a lot of effort. So I wouldn't recommend international students coming to New York City the first time try renting an apartment when there are other easier easier options to go for. And so the second option we have is school dorm. So you don't need credit score or income requirement to apply for school dorm. You also don't need to look for roommates or buy furniture. But the only problem with school dorm is that it's usually reserved for undergraduate students, and there's usually no seats for grad school students. And depending on the school you go to within Columbia, it can be very, very difficult for grad students to get a school dormitory. Yeah, and in terms of price, do not assume that it's going to be cheaper just because it's provided by school. The price at Columbia is actually around the same as IHouse. Now we've finally come to the last option, which is off-campus housing. These are the apartments owned by alumni or school faculty around the campus, and Columbia has a dedicated portal for this kind of off-campus housing. And the pros of off-campus housing is that there's no requirement for credit score or income. You don't need a guarantor. A lot of these apartments are furnished, and they're also very close to the school, so it's safer because you don't need to commute or walk alone in the dark. The disadvantage of off-campus housing is that you still need to look for roommates, and you might need to live with other students or even the faculty member, or like some other people, like older people. So compared to all those options mentioned above, I would say the competitive advantage of IHouse is definitely first, people connections and exposure to different cultures and lots of events, all that kind of fun stuff. And second, the price of IHouse is reasonable. It's not cheap, but you can't really find anywhere else cheaper. And last but not least, the process of finding a room is much easier and smoother and more convenient for international students. So, my advice for all the international students out there looking for housing in New York City is that apply for International House first. See if you like it. If you like it, then that's great. Keep living there. If you don't like it, after a semester, you can start looking for apartments around the campus or even in Midtown, downtown New York, wherever you like. And it's definitely very important to get used to the lifestyle and schoolwork here before, having to deal with all the apartment hunting, renting, preparing documents, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's my suggestion. Let me know what you think about IHouse, if you want to live here, or if you've also lived at IHouse, feel free to leave a comment below and share with us your experience. Thank you for watching. As always, take care and stay healthy. Bye!